rise of the female character in Star Trek. The reason I'm doing this video is because I previously used YouTube just to listen to music and stuff, and when I started using YouTube to watch reviews and stuff, it was when Star Wars The Last Jedi sucked so much and Star Trek Discovery sucked so much that I went to YouTube just to check, am I alone with this? Am I the only one who thinks this stuff really sucks? And the thing about that is that, especially with Star Wars The Last Jedi, that you click the wrong review and suddenly you get recommendations of Ben Shapiro and Milo Yano, whatever his name is, that whole alt-right, Trump-supporting, weird right-wing shit. And with Star Trek Discovery, it's a bit similar, even though I wouldn't know why any right-wing people would like Star Trek in the first place, considering it's a show that had a black woman in the 60s and a Russian in the 60s. I wouldn't know why any right-wing people would like Star Trek in the first place. It's mostly Star Wars The Last Jedi that you get the feeling that you click on the wrong review, listen to the wrong review, suddenly you get recommendations for Ben Shapiro owns a socialist and whatever, that kind of crap. Anyway, the thing that really made me think is that I watched reviews of Star Trek Discovery and I discovered YouTubers that I really like who have the same view of Star Trek Discovery that I have, like Nerdrotic, like Egotastic Funtime, like Mecha-Random42, like Nitpicking Nerd, what a tongue twister, Anti-Tracker, Overlord DVD, yeah, pretty much those. Anyone I forgot? SC Reviews too. And anyone I forgot? Never mind. It's not about the shout-outs, it's about the thing that I really found it hard to follow these people, to get into these people, because of the experience with The Last Jedi, that if I click on the wrong thing, suddenly I get right-wing shit, Trump-supporting Nazi reviews. And I obviously didn't want that as a European, and as a European who votes Green Party, I don't want that. I think The Last Jedi is total fucking shit. I think Star Trek Discovery is total fucking shit. This whole thing, Captain Marvel, of course, also is total shit. All this crap, nobody wants that crap. Especially The Last Jedi. What the fuck kind of crap movie was that? But I don't want to be put in that kind of shitty political direction where I click a review and suddenly see Ben Shapiro, and that's why I get weary of terms like SJW or agenda and all that crap. That's why when I watched YouTubers I agree with, I had to vet them, so to speak, for a long time. I had to watch for a long time to make sure that they don't use those words to say anything that would be that Trump-supporting, right-wing, alt-right, Ben Shapiro-supporting kind of crap that I absolutely have nothing in common with. So I got really weary of terms like SJW and woke and all that crap. So recently there was a video of Patrick Stewart saying that early seasons of Star Trek TNG, what really bothered him was how sexist it was. And there was that video on YouTube and all the comments were going like SJW and woke and feminism and blah 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 blah, all that fucking crap. But honestly, think about it. In Star Trek TNG, the female characters you had, Patrick Stewart just didn't want to say the name, but Gene Roddenberry fucking sucked at writing convincing, real, interesting female characters. We had Tasha Yar, who was nothing, Deanna Troi, who was I Sense Something, and Beverly Crusher, who was again nothing. And that's the reason why Tasha Yar aka Denise Crosby, and Beverly Crusher, aka Gates McFadden, left after the first season because the characters were complete crap. Especially if you think about Dr. Crusher. It's the flagship of the Federation and she's the chief medical officer. Obviously, she has to be the best in her field to be on the flagship of the Federation. And what did her character have to offer? Nothing. It was just like blank. It was nothing. It was complete crap. So it's obvious she left. And the only one who held out was Marina Sirtis, who spent 2 seasons going, I sense something, I sense something, I sense something. Like total crap character that everybody hated. And I totally relate to Patrick Stewart there that the female characters early in TNG were just complete crap and totally degrading to the actresses who played them. Because they were such crap. There was nothing to those characters. They were so terribly written. They were such crap. And it was really an insult to the actresses who had to play them. It's no wonder that 2 actresses left. And then they replaced Gates McFadden with the wonderful Diana Muldaur. And all they could think of it was make a copy of Dr. Leonard McCoy and have him pretend that Data is Spock, and that obviously didn't work. That was totally retarded. So I'm glad Gates McFadden returned. I'm glad for it. She's an amazing actress, obviously. But the characters in the beginning, they were so horrible, and you could really see the development that they would finally start to take throughout the series. That once Captain Jellicoe put Deanna Troi in a uniform, her brain power would increase by double, and Dr. Crusher, she would finally get a specialty, like something that justified her being on flagship, that she would be an expert on medical research, and she would always be doing advanced research and trying new techniques and trying new experiments. So they finally gave something to that character that justified it being there. But they really had a long way to go until finally at the end of the series they gave us Admiral Nechayev, who was like the most tough, amazing woman ever. And then shortly after that they went to DS9 and bam, Major Kira, bam, Jadzia Dex, bam, Kai Wynn. Suddenly they got in the train of thought that we shouldn't just make the male characters interesting, we should make all the characters interesting. And that's a good thought, obviously, that when you make a TV show, you should make all characters interesting, not just the male ones, obviously. That makes it better for the audience, obviously. So it was a really huge step forward when DS9 came and Major Kira was there, and then Sia Dex, Kai Wynn, the female shapeshifter. That really came as an improvement. That really made it better. That was such a far cry from that crap of lifeless characters we got in the beginning of TNG. And that's why no one should scream SJW when Patrick Stewart says that in the beginning of TNG it was sexist, because obviously they had such terrible female characters. They were so god-awful. Tasha Yar was awful, and Dr. Crusher early seasons was awful, and Deanna Troi early seasons was terrible. They were so awful. He is so right in saying that. And finally, when DS9 came, they gave us women who were really just as interesting as any man on the show. Major Kira was awesome. Josiah Dex was awesome. Esri Dex Slater was also awesome. Kai Wynn was awesome. The female changeling. And then Voyager came, Captain Janeway, for all her faults. She was an awesome character. B'Elanna Torres, amazing. 7 of 9, perfect. Finally, they got the message that they shouldn't just write like puppet mannequins to be female characters. Obviously, that made everything so much better. So why would anyone see a video of Patrick Stewart saying early TNG was sexist and say any SJW agenda woke shit? Why would anyone say that? Because obviously in the beginning of TNG that was leftovers from the time of Team Gene Roddenberry from the 60s. And he used his 60s writing women as they were in the 60s, and it was really, really terrible. It was obviously really terrible. And Star Trek came such a long way in just a few years, until first in TNG people like Admiral Nechayev came, and then in DS9 Major Kira Jadzia Dex. So it was such huge progress. Obviously, that's not something you can fault Patrick Stewart for saying. Obviously, we've come such a long way. But what also bothers me in hindsight is that when they are marketing Star Trek Discovery, that they are saying, now finally we have strong female characters. No, it's not now finally. It's the same I said about the New Voyages gay episode, that the New Voyages episode that was using a script from 1994 from 1987, that was supposed to be in the first season of TNG, showing two male lovers in a positive light, and they rejected it. And Star Trek Discovery is trying to take the credit for portraying a gay couple on Star Trek when it was first proposed 25 years ago. In the same way with women on Star Trek. Star Trek Discovery is trying to take the credit, but no. Star Trek really started to get it with DS9. That's when they gave us Major Kira and Jadzia Dex and Kai Wynn, and then Voyager with Captain Janeway and B'Elanna Torres in 7 of 9. Star Trek got that long ago. That's not something Star Trek Discovery can take credit for. Just doesn't work that way, obviously. And again, I just want to repeat that people who cried SJW and woke and whatever at that Patrick Stewart comment about early TNG being sexist, what a bunch of retards. Because if you watch early TNG, and if you watch Deanna Troi, Tasha Yar, and Beverly Crusher in early TNG, that was just god-awful writing for characters. They just sucked. And you should cry foul when someone does not refer to that as sexist, because it obviously was. They were women and they had nothing to them, and that was just terrible. So honestly, Patrick Stewart was completely right about that, but Star Trek really got the message by the time DS9 arrived, and I'm really glad for that. I'm really glad for the fact that they don't just make half the characters interesting, they make all the characters interesting. And that's what made shows like DS9 and even Voyager, which had its problems, but also had its great parts. That's what made it so great. That's what gave it the opportunity to continue Star Trek in a continuous run for so long. That's what really made modern Star Trek work. It's not something Star Trek Discovery can ever take credit for, because Voyager and DS9, they did it. They gave us those amazing woman characters. And I'm really glad for that.